with us today, Mr. Long, for an interview. Maybe ask you some questions?
Please do.
Okay, so how did the tension of the Vietnam War affect you as a soldier, and how was this different to the tension evident in the shooting you fought in?
How did it affect me as a soldier? Well, when you're a soldier, your mission is to perform in whatever they call it a military operational specialty, whatever you're trained to do. And the tensions were not social when you're in combat. The tensions were more back in the States amongst those who were not in favor of the conflict. So there wasn't a lot of tensions other than you were scared sometimes or most of the time. So anyway, but you did your best. You did what you were trained to do.
Good. How did the Vietnam War affect you as an American citizen?
Well, I would say that I was probably a 50-50 in favor of and against of. There was way too much politics involved. Therefore, the military couldn't perform the job that they were trained to do. Therefore, there was probably some legitimate reason for people to not want to support it. But because I was part of it, I was, more on the support side than the non-support side.
Right. Okay, so in your opinion, from the military's perspective, what was the impact of the Paris Peace Accord in the military? Was this a joyful time for you, knowing that there was going to be something to help you get out of the war?
I'm not sure that the fact that they were having the Paris Peace Accord, the coming together of the adversaries, that was really translated to the troops. What we got was what the media gave us, and not always does the media give the straight shot. So, it was, I think, for those that were worried about going there and hadn't, or those that had gone there and maybe going back because there was an end and that went away. They didn't have to worry about that anymore.
Okay, so the Paris Peace Accords revolved not only around the physical threat of the war, but the emotional traumas. Americans and others captured in war were released back to their homes and families, and Americans stationed here were released as well. Would you agree that the Paris Peace Accord solved emotional damage?
I think it created some, and it probably helped some. A number of the terms POW and MIA. POW is for prisoner of war. MIA was missing in action. There were still a lot of American soldiers and sailors that were in prison in North Vietnam long after Paris Peace Accord, long after the conflicts ended. There are still many names on the MIA list, meaning there are people that went into the conflict and they do not know what happened to them, so they are missing in action still. Just recently there was, I believe, the remains of some soldiers that they had found that were returned to the U.S. after the conflict was over in 1974. Well, it's now 2017, so that's a lot of years that went by with those people. And relative to your question, that had to be really tough on the families to not know where their loved ones were, particularly wives or parents or brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. Relative to the known prisoners of war, that had to be also difficult because the question is, when is he coming home? Child asking a mom, when's daddy coming home? So anyway, those are the conflicts that tear at your heart.
Yeah. After the Paris Peace Accords was signed, was the American lifestyle different?
I don't think it really made a whole lot of difference for those that were violently against the war, that had been doing the protests and doing the rioting, etc., because of the war. I'm sure that they were, happy because it was over. They didn't have to do that anymore. So, but for the rest of I think the rest of the country, people just moved forward. They were happy with what they had.
Right.
And a lot of them were not directly impacted by the conflict, therefore, it wasn't a major thing in their lifestyles or in their thought process.
How is this different to the tension evident in the shooting you fought?
In the shooting, I'm not sure of your question.
Well, what you fought in San Francisco.
Oh, I think you're relating to the People's Park incident at UC Berkeley. Is that what your question is?
Yeah, we're
okay.
more trying to get at how the conflict, the Vietnam War, and how the American public was affected by it.
There was a lot of, I'm going to call them misinformed or miseducated people that no matter what happened, they were against whatever was going on without the full knowledge of, without the amount of information they would need to make a bona fide, informed decision. And there were a lot of incidents, the one I just related to, where rioting occurred. A lot of it occurred in San Francisco in an area called the Haight-Ashbury, which is near to, just to the east of Golden Gate Park. There was a major incident at UC Berkeley in May of 1969, where it was an outright conflict where the local law enforcement agencies were inadequate to control the situation, so the military was called in to assist, and it all worked out peacefully at the end. It was stressful for those of us that were there. I think in some ways the students and others that were involved, it was almost like a party to them. The things that were occurring, which you guys would not know what LSD is, but that was an acid that was used back in those days, somewhat the way marijuana and things are today. The adversaries to the law enforcement were injecting apples and oranges and soda pop cans with LSD and then handing them out to everybody to consume.
Oh my gosh.
So, anyway, strange things were happening.
Are there any additional comments that you'd like to make before we end the video?
Not that I know of, but thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming.